Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the What Fills Your Cup podcast. I am your host, Riley Alexander, and I am feeling so excited. I'm feeling so excited, I'm feeling so happy, and I'm feeling much more energized than I was last week. If you listened to last week's episode, I had talked about being very tired and jet lagged. I am feeling much more rejuvenated, feeling much more me, and sparkle, sunshine, rainbows is all I can feel right now. Could also be because it's sunny out and it's not raining and I feel like spring is coming, which is so exciting. I love this time of year because the flowers and it's a step closer to summer. It's not as rainy. The air smells amazing. I just love spring. I don't know what my favorite season is because I love fall fashion. Like I like being cozy. Summer I also love because I just love to be outside. There's no better feeling than stepping outside and being able to wear a tank top and shorts. Patio season. Are you kidding? Patio season's my favorite season. Yeah. Okay, there it is. But I think spring might be my favorite season. But then winter is my... I just love time. I can't pick one, but I really like spring. So I think that's also why I'm in a good mood because spring has sprung and I am feeling sprungy. Is that a word? If it's not, I just made it one. And it's the feeling of feeling excited for a season. Sprungy. Yep, that's right. I hope that's not actually a word, and I really hope I did just make it up. That would be pretty cool. Anyways, what are we talking about this week? Well, since you asked, actually, that was a perfect introduction. Everything I just said there is a perfect way to start this week's solo episode. Because this week, we are going to be talking about neurodivergence. And specifically, I am going to be sharing my experience with being undiagnosed ADHD for 23 years, and then finally getting diagnosed and feeling as though my entire world kind of shifted. We are going to be taking it back to growing up for me, personally. Because like I said, I was undiagnosed for 23 years. I'm now 25, so I've been diagnosed for 2 years. And I really wanted to just share a little bit about my experience with ADHD and high school and friendships and kind of how my brain works a little bit because I actually do think it is quite an interesting topic. And I also think this one is going to be a lot more personal maybe than some of my other ones. I try to be as personal and vulnerable as I can be in the solo episodes, but sometimes I do get a little bit nervous. Obviously, putting yourself online is very scary, but as I've gotten more comfortable and I've received really positive feedback from people that watch my episodes or listen to my episodes, I thought, you know what? Being vulnerable and being open is all about having a safe community online. And that way you guys can also understand me and hear a little piece of my story, to say the least. I've talked about it on this channel before, and when I did talk about it, I brought up the example of when I was in grade 3, and I just thought that everyone around me was understanding and retaining information, and I just couldn't. I couldn't sit still. I just really struggled in school, especially. Looking back now, I've really thought a lot of the time, I don't understand how my teachers didn't notice that I had ADHD. I was always having to get up, go to the washroom, move around. I hated sitting at my desk. To this day, I hate sitting in one place for a really long time. I feel as though I just constantly need to be moving, and that is why I am choosing a career that allows me to have that flexibility where I can sit down, do my desk work, but then if I need to get up, I can get up, obviously. So when I think of school, I have obviously a very interesting relationship with it because I really did struggle in school and I worked really, really hard. I was like a 70 to 80 average, I would say. Like in between 70 and 80. Mind you, I failed a lot of tests. I remember in grade 10 math specifically, there wasn't one test that I got above 30% on in my first semester of taking it. And yes, I did have to take it multiple times, but that's a story for another day, okay? School for me was more of a social thing. Like, I just went because I wanted to see my friends, hang out with them in class. I was always talking. I, again, just could not focus. And I remember also in elementary school, always getting in trouble for talking because I just wanted to, I had so many thoughts. I had so many thoughts and I needed to get them out. Then in high school, I would usually get in trouble in class, or I would just ask to go to the washroom and do a few laps of the school. My high school was huge. It was ginormous. I think it had like over 2,000 students. Like, it was a very big high school, keep in mind. And I would just do laps of the school, the main floor. I'd go up the stairs. I'd poke my head in other people's classes. Like, I was not there to work. I was there to socialize. And I'll wear that badge loud and proud, okay? School for me was a social thing. I also struggled because I would try really hard. My parents set a very high standard for my sister and I when it came to school. They just really expected us to do well in school, and obviously that was hard for me, but again, I did try and I was able to get B's and C pluses, maybe a C the odd time, but that was only in math and science, okay? I thrived in like English and history, cooking. No, I didn't thrive in cooking actually, but I tried and I still got a good grade. But where I'm going with this is in my household, we were held to a very high standard of the grades we brought in. So I had a tutor as well, which honestly I would try to distract him when he was tutoring me because I just wanted to talk and do anything but my math homework. But again, shout out Mike. You frickin' rock, and you helped me all throughout high school. That was my tutor's name. One of the biggest issues for me with school, especially, was that although I did try really hard, and yes, I'm not saying every single class I was a shit student and would be talking over the teacher or causing a disturbance, but I felt a lot of the times my teachers knew that I was struggling and would call me out in front of my peers. Specifically, my grade 6 French teacher. There's only a certain amount of people that will really know the woman that I'm talking about, but that woman honestly kind of ruined my life. Like, she would call me out in front of the class all the time. And she knew that math was my weakest subject. And I clearly remember, because it was so embarrassing and it was so traumatizing, we had to complete a math problem. But when we were done completing the math problem, we had to stand up. And I did not know the answer. Like, I could not figure it out, and I just stood up anyway because I was probably the last person that was still sitting, and she asked me what the answer was, and obviously I got it wrong, and right away she was like, "No, that's not it." And I'm like, "You fucking bitch, you know that I don't know this, and now you've embarrassed me in front of all my class." So if my grade 6 teacher is for some reason watching this, my grade 10 French teacher would always do the same thing. And I feel as though, as the adult, you obviously know when someone is struggling in a class, or you know when someone is maybe behind. You're grading everything. And instead of sitting down and helping that individual, I felt as though my teachers would just pick on me for it or make fun of me. Mind you, I had some amazing, amazing teachers. My grade 12 was it Geo? My grade 12 Geo teacher, I will always hold a place dear in my heart for him. I had a grade 10 peer tutor that we are still family friends with him to this day. I just feel like I had some amazing teachers that understood me and worked with me and knew that I was a not amazing student but tried. And then there was others that just were like, "I'm gonna ruin this chick's life." Where I'm going with all of this is I feel I felt as though growing up, there were definitely signs that I was behind. I was also a year essentially younger than all of my peers. My birthday is Boxing Day, which is December 26th. I probably should have been held back, but I wasn't, and that's okay. I also probably shouldn't have been in French because also adding to the struggling of school, I took every single one of my classes from grades 6 to 11 in French, in another language. History, science, math, French class, obviously, but every single class that we had to take in high school was in another language for me. And I barely knew. I barely knew the language, but I did it. And we had to write this test in grade 12. This is a huge FU moment to all of my teachers. We had to do a test in grade 12, and it was called a DELF. And if you know what that is, then you'll understand. But it's a really big French test. And I passed that test by, I think, 2%. And all they see is a green check or a red X. Like, you either pass or you don't. And that was the best day of my life. Because it was like, have I been doing French all these years to not even pass this test and like make this requirement? And I did. And that, oh my God. I need that framed. I should have that framed in this studio. That way when people come in, they'll think I'm extra smart. Where I'm going with all of this is that I felt as though I showed signs that I struggled in school. And then university came, and I was going through some difficult periods of time with friends and relationships, and I always felt as though something was wrong with me. I'm a very emotional person, but I'm also a very reactive person. I will say the first thing that's on my mind, and I interrupt people when they talk because, again, I just want to get my thought out, because if I don't get it out, I will genuinely forget the thought, and I feel in that moment it's important to add to the story, for example. But I will say that I feel as though, because how my brain works at times, I lost a lot of friends along the way because they didn't understand how my brain worked fully. And that's okay. Like, I'm not sitting here bashing anyone. I know I have done things wrong in the past when it comes to past friendships, but at the same time, I felt like I wasn't totally surrounded by people that just let me be me or accepted me for all that I am, which is the things that I just mentioned. I am reactive. I do speak my mind. I do say whatever is the first thing on my brain. And sometimes I probably shouldn't, but I do. And so it's like, take it or leave it. I don't know. And I also do talk a lot. I have a lot of energy, and that's not me trying to take the attention. That's just my personality. That's how my brain is wired. I have a lot of energy, and I need to get my thoughts out, and I need to run around and be moving and doing things. And for a lot of people, that can be draining, and that a lot of people could look at me as, oh my gosh, it is a chore hanging out with her. And I feel as though, because of all those things of who I am and how I am programmed, a lot of people just wouldn't understand or not see eye to eye, or think I'm annoying or trying to be center of attention, which isn't true. I mean, yeah, you can think I'm annoying. I don't care if you think I'm annoying. I think I'm annoying. Imagine having to live with this brain. It's constantly on. Circling back to my ADHD. So I got the time wrong. I have actually been diagnosed with ADHD for 3 years now. How I got diagnosed is actually quite funny story. I was talking to my therapist, and on my For You page on TikTok, I was getting so many ADHD videos on my For You page. It was just like, these are signs of ADHD in women, and these are signs that you probably are neurodivergent. And I was like, what is this? Like, what? I feel like someone just went into my brain and picked it up and put it on display. Like, that is exactly how I feel. And I was sitting in my therapist's office. If she's watching this, she's gonna giggle. I said to her, you know, I've been seeing all these things online about ADHD in women, and I'm starting to think I might have it. And she looks at me and she goes, Riley, what do you mean you think you have ADHD? I thought this entire time you knew. I'm like, no. Like, do you think I have ADHD? She's like, yes, you definitely have ADHD. And that's not a bad thing, but like, yeah, you have it. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should get medicated for it. That could help. And she that day set me up with to a private doctor, private clinic, did the test. It was the first test I ever got 100% on, and here we are now, fully diagnosed. It was off the charts, raging ADHD, and that is totally okay. At first, I was having mixed emotions because I was like, how did my parents not do this for me earlier? I've been struggling for all these years. No wonder I have a hard time holding on to friendships. No wonder people think this or might think that of me. And at first, I had a lot of negative emotions, but as the years have gone on, I'm like, you know what? At least I know now. Better late than never. And it's not even late. There's some people that are 40 and are getting diagnosed. And I was 22 or 23 when I got diagnosed. So that's a win in my books, okay? I got diagnosed and things just started to make more sense. The first time I took my medication, let me tell you, that was wackadoodle. I actually for once felt calm. Yeah, I felt like I could actually sit down and do a task, which was remarkable. And a lot of the noise in my head was just diminished or not there. And I just was like, wow, this is what the normal person, I say in quotations, is like. This is crazy and also boring. I'm kidding, you're not boring. But I do feel as though I've shifted my mindset of having ADHD at the beginning when I first got diagnosed to being like, what the fuck? This is so shitty. How could I have not known? Why didn't I get diagnosed earlier? To now being like, wait, ADHD is my superpower. And I love that part of myself. And it makes me quirky. It makes me a little weird. And yes, there's so many parts of ADHD that are really difficult. And by no means am I glamorizing having ADHD because it is very hard. And as I've grown up and as I have been medicated, I have recognized that when I am off my medication, which has been prescribed by a doctor, I do notice a very big difference in even just how I go about my day to day. I can do tasks in a time efficient manner. I'm not as scatterbrained and I'm not getting as frustrated with how my brain works, if that makes sense. But I also look at it as this is me, this is who I am, and I'm not ashamed of that. And you either like it or you don't. You either take me for who I am or how I'm programmed, or I'm not your cup of tea, and that's totally fine. I don't need to be everyone's cup of tea. I don't want to be everyone's cup of tea. That would be a headache, but so is having ADHD. I'm kidding. I also touched on friendships in this episode. And growing up, I lost a lot of friends. I had a lot of falling outs with friends. I outgrew friends. But I will say the friends that I have kept for almost all of my life are the people that know me so well, know how I'm programmed, aren't afraid to let me be me. They accept me for all that I am, and that is the most fulfilling thing. I feel as though I've really surrounded myself with individuals that just get me and accept me and know that when I do interrupt them or if I do say something, it's not me being mean, it's me just having to get my thoughts out. And I will say one of the biggest blessings through all of this is knowing that when I obviously told and talked to all of my friends, every single one of them was like, okay, like, I'm not gonna look at you differently. I still love you, and I think that, no kidding, you have ADHD. That was like 90% of the responses I got from my friends when I told them. They were like, oh yeah, you definitely do. Or everyone just thought I did. And that's why I cherish my friendships that I've had for years and years and years so much, because through all the phases of Riley and me and who I am, they've stuck by my side. And that is something that I am so proud to say in my friends. And I'm so proud that although I have had some relationship issues, whether that be with partners or whether that be with old friends, I still love all those individuals to a degree and will have love for them, but it just didn't work out, and that's fine. Like I said, that's part of growing up, is sometimes you go out of reach with friends, or sometimes you lose touch with friends, and or maybe you have a disagreement and it doesn't work out. That's totally part of growing up. And I feel as though not feeling fully understood at times because of how my brain works, it did impact those situations for me growing up. Like I said, I now am surrounded by people that I feel so comfortable being my weird, annoying self with. My family is super understanding. My sister is my best friend. My best friends get me. My boyfriend understands me. He's my number one fan. And I told him right away, like, yeah, I have ADHD, by the way, so take it or leave it, honey. All in all, talking about ADHD and talking about my experience and the ups and downs in school and friends and partners and all of the messy in between, I will say that it is something that I'm not ashamed of at all. And I don't think, if you are someone that maybe feels as though you have ADHD or you are neurodivergent, that it is nothing to be ashamed about or feel frustrated with. If anything, it just allowed me to accept me for who I am a lot more. And it also gave me a sense of confidence in myself and to not care at all and not try to fit in a bubble that maybe I was trying to fit into for my whole life. A big part of ADHD, if you don't know, is there's something called masking. And I felt as though in high school and with certain friends, I was masking a lot of the time, trying to fit in and not actually being me, and more trying to fit in to what they would think is cool or what they thought was interesting, because I just wanted to fit in and I wanted to feel normal, because I would go home and not feel normal every single day. As I've gotten older and just accepted me more and accepted that I don't need to mask for anyone and I never should have to mask for anyone, and if I feel myself trying to fit in or doing certain things that maybe aren't actually me, then that's masking. I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be around those people, and I want to be around the individuals that allow me to be all me. But I will say that took time. I'm not saying that I one day woke up and was like, you know what, I am fan-frickin-tabulous. No. I just want you to know, if you are maybe going through that phase of how I felt years ago when I was first diagnosed, and I was frustrated, I was angry, I didn't understand, I needed to learn more about how my brain works. That's okay. That's fine. And feel those feelings, feel those emotions. If you are frustrated, you're okay to feel frustrated. But I promise you, as time goes on, you'll learn to just accept that that's how you're programmed, and everyone is programmed differently, and that is a really beautiful thing. And that you can surround yourself with other neurodivergent people and they'll understand you a lot better and a lot more. And I think that something that I've really learned as well with how my brain works and starting this job is that I'm learning and actively teaching myself to just sit back and listen more. Especially when I'm doing an interview with someone, I remind myself I don't always need to chime in and just to let someone else speak. And I think that I'm so grateful to have found a career where I am learning new things each week, and I'm learning not only about people, but also to help me and myself and learn how to work with the brain that I have. understanding yourself and your brain and your personality and your likes and dislikes and all the in between takes time. And it took me over half of my life, well over half of my life, to begin to understand and learn about how my brain works. But now I am so grateful that I get the rest of my life to understand and keep learning and embrace what makes me me. I'm going to sign off on the episode here. I wanted to say the biggest thank you for listening to another episode of the What Fills Your Cup podcast. If you're not already, do not forget to subscribe to the What Fills Your Cup channel or follow me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Wherever you listen, wherever you watch, make sure you follow. It helps me. And I just wanted to say the biggest thank you for listening. Every single week that I get to do this, I just feel so grateful, so excited, and I look forward to the following week to keep doing what I love. Ending off on that note, if you haven't heard it today, I love you, and do not forget to tell someone you love them, because you never know who needs it a little extra. I will see you guys on Sunday for another episode. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!